had with cranes in Brickell. We've got a few standing here. Actually, it happens to be right next to our affiliate here in Tampa. I'm going to keep you updated as far as what's going on, and that's the very latest from Tampa. Jamie Garola, NBC6 News.
Jamie, thanks. And we had mentioned that crane behind you when you were talking to the senator, because we have been talking about the cranes here in downtown Miami and in the Brickell area in particular. Dan Kraut did an investigation about that, and here we go. NBC6 reporter Michael Spears tweeted this video of that crane collapsing in Miami. We had been talking about the possibility of this happening. This is, just to give you an idea, this is at Northeast 30th Terrace. It's dangling from, it looks like an unfinished high-rise tower. This is construction, debris, the crane collapse. We had been talking about the dangers as a result of this, and many of the businesses, including Periconi's, we spoke to one of the business owners who was concerned about that, and obviously there was reason to be concerned about those
absolutely,
cranes.
Absolutely. You're talking about two crane collapses here, and the first one, there, Northeast 3rd Street, 30th Terrace, and 300 Biscayne Boulevard, and this has been a concern. We saw them whipping in the winds yesterday, and it was, I believe, Michael Spears actually that was showing us that crane that was going around doing what it was supposed to do in the wind, and then you and I, we talked about what would happen if it did not do what it was supposed to do, and this is an example of that, what we're seeing right now. This is very dangerous, and this thing could completely collapse.
There were discussions about it would have taken 2 weeks to essentially bring down that crane and a mammoth cost to it, and they thought, they were confident that it would be able to withstand hurricane force winds, and obviously we see here a side swipe from Hurricane Irma, and two cranes have fallen down. Let's go now to Adam Berg. You're going to talk about some of the storm surge that we're experiencing is from Coconut Grove to Palmetto Bay to downtown Miami. Adam?
Yeah, and well, good news there is we're past high tide, so those numbers are going to be coming down. On the other coast, they're just about to get into this horrible surge. So let's bounce around the radar first, though, and Miami is seeing the worst of it right now. And by the way, still some tornado warnings up into Palm Beach County here with a couple of new issuances of tornado. Here's another tornado warning that goes until 3 o'clock. You just get these little spin-ups coming in right off the ocean. These are fast-moving thunderstorms, too, 60, 70 miles per hour, just hustling in off the water. I mean, that's what the wind speeds are upstairs, and they're moving that fast. So here we go. Here's Miami, north, all the way up towards even Fort Lauderdale right now, getting into this band, but a relative break in the action. You're going to start seeing it with some of the live shots here as that band works northbound. In between bands, the winds will come down just a little bit. It's these bands, these thunderstorm bands that spin those fast-moving winds from upstairs in the atmosphere right down to the surface. And we just got one of those recently here in Coral Gables up to about 90 miles per hour, 90-mile-per-hour gust. On to the other side of the coast we go. It's actually the eye wall now making landfall here in Marco Island. It's official landfall when the center, right in through here, actually works over land. And the center is about a good 14 miles away from Marco Island. There is some land that's a little south of there, several miles south of there. So it's going to be making landfall. It's moving north at about 9 miles per hour. So probably in the next hour and change, it will have officially made another landfall. That would be Florida's second landfall, and this time on the west coast of Florida. And look at the storm surge potential over here. Purple. We're talking 10, 11 plus feet here, and that's all because of that wind coming in off the ocean, driving that ocean water inland, and we're talking about it getting pretty far inland. Little arrow coming in from here, Naples, possibly several miles inland, looking at the 10-plus foot storm surge. Bonita Springs, same deal here. It's going to be brutal. You know, a lot of folks went to Fort Myers and all the way up towards Tampa to escape some of this, and now with the system riding right up the coastline, we could be talking about major storm surge on the west coast of Florida going inland. A good several miles, possibly even flirting with Interstate 75 out there. Far north we go. Here's Sanibel. You're absolutely going to be dealing with 10, 11 plus foot storm surge here, and then all the way into Fort Myers because this water snakes right in here and spills over. So on either side of the waterways here. be talking about a couple miles of storm surge on the order of about 10 feet or so. So we all want to know, when is this stuff going to end, right? When are things going to ramp down? Well, as far as storm surge, I think the worst is over. In fact, it's absolutely over here from Miami-Dade because we're well past high tide. Winds have continued to go up a bit, though, because we're about the same latitude. And that storm system here, Irma, sitting only about 9 miles away from us. And as it continues to work due north, that means places like, Fort Lauderdale, up towards Pompano Beach, still about the same distance away from Irma, possibly even a little bit closer. So we still 8 o'clock down here towards the Keys. So let's go ahead and show you some of those new peak wind gusts. There's Coral Gables now coming in at 90 miles per hour. Miami International 94. Plenty of spots coming in with 80 mile per hour winds. And Pinecrest, one of those areas that likes to flood with that east wind. We're looking at storm surge and some pretty strong winds. Farther north we go. Here's Broward County. Some of these peak gusts are pretty insane. Miramar 98, pretty close to our studios there. 109 at a middle school in Pembroke Pines. Port Everglades, closer to Fort Lauderdale, looking at 87 mile per hour winds. And then some of the beaches out there, Deerfield Beach, coming in at 86 miles per hour. Sunrise 78. We'll continue to update these numbers because they continue to fluctuate. The Keys obviously taking it right on the chin, with Cudjoe Key getting the actual landfall, which sits pretty close to Summerlin Key as well. 120 mile per hour winds, and then you start seeing plenty of 90s through the Keys. There's Fort Jefferson coming in at 84. So let's talk timeline now. When does this stuff get out of here? What to expect from Miami-Dade? Well, still storm surge warning, hurricane warning for us. Sustained hurricane winds, sustained anyway, not expected, but boy, are we still seeing gusts there. And this is what we're talking about, peak gusts, 90 to 100 miles per hour. And we just saw that 90 mile per hour wind in Coral Gables. So we are not out of the woods yet. 14 to 16 inches of rain possible, 3 to 5 feet of storm surge still in some of those tough spots, like areas east of Homestead, Pinecrest, Palmetto Bay, and areas just south of South Beach there. South Beach into the Miami area, we're getting a little bit lower, a few feet of storm surge. Broward County, much better, 1 to 2, right at the immediate coastline. So what to expect here as we push into Broward County? Still a hurricane warning for us. Hurricane force wind gusts still expected, sustained at not, but it's the gusts that do damage. There you go, 90 to 100 miles per hour. When we're going to be talking about winds as strong as they are now, probably continuing again for the next several hours or so, because again, that hurricane doesn't get farther away from us until the evening hours. 10 to 13 inches of rain, 2 to 4 feet of storm surge, and that might even be a little bit on the high end of things. And lastly, the Keys that took it, right on the chin, 9:10 a.m. landfall, Cudjoe Key. Definitely shelter in place. Although system now moving northbound, things are relaxing a bit, but still 5 to 10 foot storm surge for the lower Keys. Still looking at something like that continuing. 15 inches of rain easily. 5 to 10 inches of 5 to 10 feet I was just mentioning of storm surge, but it does look like these winds will begin to spin down here probably around 8 o'clock this evening. So that's kind of the forecast for you guys. Actually, you know what? I do think I have one more if we have time here. And this is going to kind of estimate the position of Irma with some estimated wind gusts here. This is from our GFS model showing that we're still talking about wind gusts here. You notice still 2 tropical storm force around 6:30 for the Keys. And look at some of these winds here, easily 70, 80, probably 90 plus miles per hour. Again, this paints a broad brush. Look at this, though, landfall having occurred, and that's about right because I think it's going to happen in the next hour. So landfall will be the next hour or so pushing north. You notice how Marco Island's winds spin down just for a moment. That's because you're in the eye. But then once it heads north, it's going to be other places that deal with the strong winds. And Marco Island, your winds will likely kick back up as that eye moves north. Look at Fort Myers, easily 100 mile per hour winds. Yep, there's Marco Island and Naples going back up again as we hit 8:30. You notice now finally the winds are getting a little bit closer to tropical storm force. I think on the other side of 8, 9, 10 o'clock, we should be out of those kind of winds here. But you notice still 60, 70 mile per hour winds here, close to hurricane force, even over the next several hours. It's 3 o'clock. Another good 5 hours probably of gusts to hurricane force wind. And then finally getting into the overnight hours, this is when we begin to go below tropical storm force, and even Broward and Miami-Dade as we go overnight tonight, dropping below. So we still have a ways to go for sure. Several more hours of what we're dealing with right now, wind speed-wise, we'll continue to see across Broward and Miami-Dade. And then look at that. Look at all this storm surge that's continuing. All these west to east winds working through Marco Island, Naples, Fort Myers, up towards Tampa, where we're expecting some pretty good storm surge on the west coast of Florida. But I can say it looks like everything ramping down storm surge-wise, guys, on the east coast of Florida. Several hours, though, of winds just as rough as we've been showing you. Jamie Grola having some wild scenes out there.
And Adam, just quick question, and you did a great job breaking that all down, because that is the number one question I'm getting right now, is how long can we expect to see the worst of this if I live in Miami-Dade or Broward County? Now, you're saying that a lot of this shall be out between 8 and 10 o'clock, but are you talking about the worst of it? You said the storm surge is over.
I wouldn't say over. It's you know, we're getting closer to low tide now. So even though the winds are the same, we've got, you know, the tide issue is helping us. You know, the tide is pushing back out. So that's the saving grace. But we're looking probably at several hours, you know, with our system still here south of Marco Island. Of course, this is showing 2:30 a.m. This was kind of a future cast. Right now, the system is right in through here, same latitude as Miami, basically working north-northwest. It doesn't really pull away from a lot of these areas until once we get possibly 7, 8 o'clock. That's when we're going to see those winds, I think, really begin to ramp down sooner for Key West, because you're going to be pulling away from the system a little bit sooner. But boy, we're still a good 9 miles, 9, 10 miles away from that center here in Miami. And we've got to work it north to about here and then up and out. So I think we've got 3, 4 more hours at least of wind speeds looking pretty similar. Things will diminish from south to north. The winds will stay on the strong side a little bit longer as you work northbound, obviously, because the system is working north too. Another several hours to go.
All right.
Of the worst of it.
Of the worst of it. Adam, great job explaining that. Of course, we'll check back in with you. A great job.
Okay, thanks.
It looks like we're going to be into the night and still dealing with some of these gusts of winds. We're going to go now to Kendall down south. Steve Litz is there live, and many of the residents in Kendall, they know how it feels to go through a hurricane, going through Hurricane Andrew, and now some of the effects of Hurricane Irma. Steve isn't there, so...
Yeah, we're having a little bit of issue with Steve, but we're going to continue to try to get him on the horn here. But can you imagine Pembroke Pines with 109 mile per hour wind gusts? This is up in Broward County, an area we didn't think was going to feel as much. Hurricane force winds as it's filling.
Yeah, and Florida Power and Light has been reporting that they are experiencing unprecedented numbers of power outages across South Florida. When you're talking about 3/4 of the customers in Miami-Dade County, when you're looking around the different areas of South Florida, and you can see some of the damage. I mean, you know, it's easy to assume that most of South Florida right now is without power. So if you're listening to us on the radio, radio partners, we thank you. Stay safe, stay indoors, because as Adam Berg just mentioned, we're still experiencing some of those wind gusts, and there are areas still in South Florida with major storm surge, and the system is still about 90 miles away from us as it moves further north into the area of Marco Island. I just feel so bad for those people. And also, we were talking about that nudge that it made, because it was supposed to strike Key West, and it moved a little further east, Cudjoe Key. We're going to be talking to Gadi Schwartz in just a bit. He's in Key Largo, and that's about an hour and a half away. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of effects Key Largo got, because of course that's the first key after the mainland. So they received some of those wind gusts as well, hurricane force wind gusts.
Absolutely. And if you go a little farther north, you'll hit Florida City. That's where we find NBC6 reporter Keith Jones.
All right, the winds continue to pound here in Florida City. The winds have really picked up. We're in between 70 miles per hour, upwards of 80 miles per hour. We've lost electricity. We've lost cell service. We do have a Wi-Fi that's kind of a portable Wi-Fi service. There goes another gust that's pushing us around. We do have that, so we're able to upload a few things. But to check out the wind here, the awning over here at the cigar bar, that is just a matter of time before that is ripped off that building altogether. But look up at the Travel Lodge. That thing's taking a pounding. Just below where it says Travelodge, it's already destroyed. You see the top part, it's hanging on for dear life. That could be next. A lot of damage around here. We know that actually right out there, there's a gas station sign that's been shredded just above the cigar bar, if you can see that, Anthony. So the wind continues to pound here, and there's also an issue with the tidal surge, with Florida City being right there at the last stop before you hit the Keys. You can see we started getting a little bit of flooding here in our parking lot, actually all the parking lots. Go to the left over here, Anthony. There's more flooding over there. It's not too severe. We don't expect that it'll actually come up into the hotel. Once it does, though, if it does reach the hotel doors and it starts to seep inside, we can seek refuge on the second floor. That's not being used right now. That's a beautiful thing. And if the winds get too bad, we'll seek refuge in this building. Inside that building, there are 3 rooms with one door, one way in, way out. There are no windows there, so we'll be okay in there as well. All this tiki hut. This thing's been rocking. We don't know how much longer it might last. There was actually a van that was parked under here. We advised the owner that he should probably move it because this tiki hut started rocking when we had some really good gusts come through here. So that's very much a danger. A tiki hut's already bit it over here. Let me see if that piece is still down, if that actually flew away. Yeah, you can see the structures over there on the ground. That's part of the tiki hut that came down, part of the building as well. And we're really going through a good wind gust right here. This is actually powerful enough to push me over. I'm not a little guy. I'm 6'1", 195 pounds. We have some more damage back here as well. Turn around, Anthony. This is some structural damage to our hotel. This was an awning, part of the awning. I'm not even sure where this came from. This was actually underneath the tiki hut at one point. You can see it's a lot of wood here, a lot of damage, a lot of palm fronds. The wind picks up. We show the palm trees here. They were laying down at one point when some of those gusts came through here. This particular hotel is a shelter for the hotel's employees. The owner of the hotel was nice enough to say all employees and their families can stay here. There are some other hotels on the other side of US 1 that are shelters for the guests. They weren't supposed to be, and those hotels said if the guests wanted to stay there, they had to sign releases, you know, that they wouldn't hold the hotel responsible should anything happen. We're going to continue to monitor the situation here. We may head out depending on how bad the winds get, but right now the rain, this is the least it's rained since we've been here. It's been pouring all morning. Right now it's just pretty much a wind event. That's the latest here in Florida City. Let's send it back to you guys in studio.
And that's exactly what it's been across South Florida, a wind event along with that rain with peak wind gusts of up to 100 miles per hour.
And because of that movement of the hurricane a little towards the east, of course, we here in South Florida got a lot more of those hurricane force gusts and tropical storm form gusts. And Steve Litz is in Kendall now. And Steve, describe to us how it looks there now.
Well, it's still windy, Jackie, and it's still awful. But let me ask you a question. I'm not near the TV, but when I was listening to John, and he was talking about that last big, nasty orange or red band that was going to clear the communities of Pinecrest and.
That is correct.
Oh, okay, thanks. Okay, all right. So all right. So hallelujah, because. I switched my camera around. So that's kind of where we are. I'm near Dadeland. So this is Galloway Road, 87th Ave, and the Don Shula. And so if John was talking about that last real nasty band going through those communities, then doozy. And so we're still getting gusts here pretty good, but again, as I say, if that was the last real severe band to come through this area, well then we'd be thrilled, because I got to tell you, down here near Dadeland, near Kendall, East Kendall, we just been hammered with these tropical storm sustained winds, and then the hurricane gusts. But it's our opportunity here to get out and drive around a little bit on Galloway Road, right under the Don Shula here. And we are going to turn right over here onto the Shula. And here's a big, looks like a pine. So a big pine down, blocking the entranceway to the Don Shula. We have, Jackie, you may be able to see, and Juwan ahead of us as we come up here, you're going to see a green light. You're going to see a traffic light on. The power has been on here. part, we believe, because a lot of the lines down here, the power lines anyway, are underground. Certainly you still have utility lines overhead, phone lines, cable lines, but there's another big tree down right over there, and Kings Creek Villages is where we are. We were on the dirty side of this tropical, some ponding water here. We were on the dirty side. You see my signal is kind of bouncing out, in and out there, but stick with me if you can. Pretty good flooding. We just got with those winds for hours since this morning, and then the gusts were just tremendous too. They, I don't have my windometer with me, but we were getting beaten around so much, especially when those gusts would come over. But again, you're seeing more of the damage down here. Trees down, okay, some ponding water and some flooding, and you can see how the wind is still blowing pretty good. The good news from down here is that we haven't noticed any major structural damage. Roofs seem to be intact. We haven't seen any kind of massive destruction, aside from, I got a big tree down over here that went down onto a wall and hopefully is not resting on a home. But we'll find out. Yeah, it looks okay. That's good to hear and good to see. All right, lots of limbs down, lots of trees down, but again, happy to report from this angle down here, again, down near Dadeland. No homes look battened up. Not a soul down here. I haven't run into anybody. It's like I think we saw one car on the road. We've been out here about a half hour. But again, I want to get back to that last band now. When I was listening in the car and John was talking about clearing those communities of Pinecrest and Palmetto Bay, and not that all is going to be okay when that last band moved through, but at least it was going to go from yellow and orange to green, right? And so bring on the green as we're all much feeling comfortable. Yeah, I know my signal's dropping out there. Let me say a prayer, and maybe we can bring it on back. Bring it on back. There you go. In fact, now that last band of worst of the bands through, and John was talking. After that, it would be green from there. Let me get my signal back here and hold my phone nice and steady. Steady. Okay, back with you. Okay, all right, so now.
Okay, we lost him for a moment. We'll probably get him back in the next few moments. Steve, there you go.
Oh, no, wait. Yeah, give me 1 second. Wait a minute. Yep, you got me back. Okay, all right, and let me zoom in here. And all right, streets are flooded as expected. Trees are down. But as we said, what's up, Ross? What are you thinking?
It was flooded in the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It wasn't flooded when we left.
Right. So yeah, this was just within the last 10 minutes, and just within the last 10 or 15 minutes, because that last band that John was talking about, good God, that was a doozy. We parked with our with the back of the truck to the wind, and you could just feel this thing just moving back and forth and back and forth, and this is a sport utility vehicle. This is Yeah, this isn't the smallest vehicle in the world. But Jackie and Juwan, we had an opportunity to get out of the house and out of our shelter and drive around and give you an idea as to what the situations look like down here. It's still blowing. All right, so anyway, like I said, we had an opportunity to get out, take a little drive around. This is what we're seeing, and now we want to send it back to you guys in the studio.
Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. No major structural damage. We see some of the street lights on, some uprooted trees, obviously.
Yes.
But other than that, it looks pretty good. And one thing I did notice, a lot of those homes are shuttered up. So they really did take the precautions that all the officials in this area warned everyone to please prepare. And look at that house right there. Yeah. Shuttered up. And other than some uprooted trees, it looks pretty good, and some flooding. But, we just got a report also from Miami-Dade County that FPL crews are restoring service safely and as quickly as possible. Total customers in the county, 1,114,000, and total customers out of power, 811,000.
Wow. Wow.
So you're talking about the
Oh, my
majority
goodness.
of Miami-Dade County is without
Yeah.
power right now. And as Steve is driving around there in the Kendall area, and you see that the peak gusts at one point 85 miles per hour. But they're prepared there. As you can see, a lot of the new construction as well after Hurricane Andrew, 25 years, they've changed a lot of the way that they can build many of these homes. So they're sturdier, meant to withstand hurricane force winds.
right.
And of course, we didn't get a direct hit, thank goodness, but it fared pretty well, it looks like, other than some debris there on the ground from the trees.
Yeah, in that particular area anyway, because we know that's yet to be seen in other neighborhoods.
Right. Oh, tomorrow will be another day where
it's-
we can assess the damage as to what.
Absolutely, and this is somewhat similar, as John was saying, to Wilma and getting that dirty side of the storm. So anyway, we are going to check on Tony Pipitone. He is live in Miami Beach right now with what's going on there. Tony?
Yeah, today we've seen two of those cranes in Miami come down to some degree, and I wanted to show you this building, which is under construction as well, and point out that really a building in a storm like this that is not complete is very dangerous. These buildings are being made to code. Obviously, that one has been built sufficiently. It's structurally sound. It's not like it's going to be knocked over. But if you look closely inside there, you'll see metal partitions. And some of those partitions have been clanking and bending, and I'm pretty sure some of them breaking because it looks like some are missing. You take a close look up there, you can see one flapping in the breeze, just bending away. And of course, that could become airborne and could fly pretty much anywhere. This is a dangerous situation when you have buildings under construction and high winds. And we saw that with those cranes in downtown Miami. Those cranes obviously let loose to spin with the breeze, with the wind, not to give much resistance. But, being what they are and being the winds what they are, as you can see right now, construction sites and cranes are in danger. And of course, so are the things and the people around them. We're on Collins Avenue. This is the 6,000 block of Collins Avenue. And as I walk out into the deserted street, you can see a lot of debris that has come either from the condominiums on the ocean side here or the construction site on the bay side there. And down the middle of the street, which is, I say, deserted, is just, the detritus of a massive storm. Some of it, little floaties there that probably came off someone's balcony. I think down here there's a boogie board, also probably off someone's balcony. But the rains on this side and the wind on this side have not been that bad because we've been constructed by the 17-story condominium that has kept it pretty sound. But lately I noticed a shift in the winds as the storm continues to move north, and they're coming more toward us in a different way, perhaps more from a southerly or southeasterly direction. I don't know, but in any case, it's changed quite a bit. And as I come down here, that's the Bath Club condominium there at 5959 Collins, and you can get an idea now of the force that wind and rain is putting through here onto Collins Avenue. That is just an incredible effect and an example of wind that's concentrated coming off of two high buildings until it finds its release, as it will, here going from east to west and over here to the Aqua condominium on the bay side. But as I walk down closer here, you can just see it's pretty impressive still. It has been like this for hours. We first broadcast here at 8 this morning or so, and it's had its ups and downs. But clearly right now, it is really blowing here. As we go around this corner, you can take a good look at that. Get an idea of what Irma's been doing here in North Beach. That's the look here from 6,000 block of Collins. I don't know when it's going to slow down, I've heard John and Adam talk about a few more hours of this, and you know, we'll be here. But so far, the buildings are withstanding it well. I don't see any major structural damage here, but clearly it's a pounding that they're taking here on Collins Avenue. Back to you guys.
Wow. Wow. Incredible pictures there. Tony, thank you for that live report. A pounding that they're not only taking, but other areas are taking as well with those strong wind gusts that are happening. And of course, that is a cause for all the down power lines and power outages across South Florida. And I want to remind you out there that if you want to listen to us in the updates, maybe you're listening on the radio right now, but you can always join us on 93.9 FM radio. And we're also on WIOD, 610 WIOD as well.
I was just thinking that when you hear the term howling wind, that was it right
that was
there.
it. Yeah.
I mean, that was impressive what he's going through there in Miami Beach. We're going to go a little further south now to Key Largo. Gaddy Schwartz is there live, and you're about close to 80 miles from Cudjoe Key. That was the point where Hurricane Irma hit. Tell us about what you're seeing there. Describe some of the damage there.
Yeah, Jackie Joanne, basically what we've been doing is we've been keeping an eye on US 1, the South Dixie Highway, just to see if it's still passable. Yeah, that's the choke point into the Keys. So right now it appears as though the southbound lanes are passable. The northbound lanes, however, if we can just punch up this camera, you can see over there, there's a little bit of green. That is where debris has washed into the road. And then we're also seeing that these northbound lanes are inundated with water. Now, we just saw something as we were driving. We're going to turn right here, so just keep this front camera going. This is Manatee Bay Marina, and what you're seeing, all this debris in the road, this is really interesting because yesterday, before the hurricane hit, just from the storm surge from the hurricane, this was underwater, and now we're starting to see it receding. We don't know why it's receding. We don't know if it's the same type of effect as we've seen in other places, the ocean doing something very odd here, but the water levels here have quickly receded. In fact, just a couple of hours ago, we were by this area, and this area was under about 3 feet. So if you're with us, we're just going to kind of work our way down here, and what we're going to see is some of these boats free lines, and we know that a lot of people in considerable amount of time securing those boats, spending almost a day to secure some of those boats. In one case of a gentleman we spoke to in Key Largo, and those have broken free. So as we round this corner, we're going to see what we see. It looks like something's blocking the road here. We're probably going to have to back up, but we're going to continue on down to Key Largo. We're going to continue on down into the Keys to see what we can see. We're starting to finally be able to get in this area just because this.
All right, so we're going to go straight to a tornado warning that is brand new, has just been issued, and this tornado warning is for Key Biscayne into the area of Port Miami, as you can see, and further into South Beach and Mid Beach, heading towards the north and almost including North Bay Village there. So this tornado warning just issued. These tend to be very short-fused. They tend to not last more than 15 minutes, half an hour at the most. But what I can tell you is this tornado warning is due to a cell that is likely moving at 70 or 80 miles per hour, and that's why they don't tend to last very long. So the reason for this is whatever's coming down from the south. So we need to look further into Biscayne Bay, actually, Steve, a little bit further to the south, switch over to velocities and just the still picture, not the loop. And as soon as we switch over to velocities, we'll get an idea of whether we have some rotation possible in the atmosphere. Again, like we explained yesterday, well, gosh, it's moving so quick. So this is almost now on you in Key Biscayne. Folks, Key Biscayne, take cover. Take cover because there's a risk of a tornado moving right over your section right now for Key Biscayne. Now, this little chunk of Key Biscayne right here is as we continue to see these fast, very, very quick spin-ups in the atmosphere. So that tornado warning does include Miami Beach, but I would also be concerned about areas near downtown Miami, possibly even the Brickell area, further north beyond downtown Miami into Edgewater and Wynwood, and of course, certain near downtown Miami Overtown as well, a little bit to the west, Liberty City. I already mentioned Little Havana. Those are all locations that need to be concerned about what's going on with this possible rotation in the atmosphere. Maybe we can bring the still image of the reflectivity, and you can see that it's really very, very active right there in Key Biscayne right now. Other active areas include right now downtown Miami as this feeder band is sliding through. Expand out, because I really want to take this opportunity to explain to folks what to expect. I'm getting a lot of tweets and a lot of questions about when is this finally going to be over. I've got people actually timing how long they've been suffering from these very strong winds. Just the still picture. What's going on right here is the hurricane. The hurricane's eye is basically abeam Miami. All right, it's directly to our west, 90 miles away. And if you remember our coverage here on NBC6, and actually Steve McLaughlin was excellent in explaining how the right front quadrant is the worst section of the hurricane, right? So if this hurricane is abeam Miami right now, well, you can consider this the bottom of the right front quadrant. And while we've got a warning going on right now, right at the edge of that right front quadrant for that tornado warning, in reality, the worst of the weather is only a couple of hours from ending for the majority of South Florida. Because once we get into this down here, this, even though it's raining and yes, it's gusting, we're not seeing tornado activity down here. We're also not seeing these gusts, which are just fierce, 95 miles an hour down here. And again, the hurricane is moving in a general north-northwest direction. So as that moves north-northwest, so will this move northwest. Now this one, we need this to get out of our hair, but as this is rotating around, this will continue to impact parts of from downtown Miami into the northeastern section of Miami-Dade County. So we're still talking about places like Miami Lakes with fierce winds, like Miami Gardens right now, fierce winds in your location too. A little bit further to the east into Aventura, you still have the risk of this feeder band affecting you. But the rest of Dade County, places like Pinecrest, Coral Gables, Cutler Bay, Homestead. Guys, for you, the worst is most definitely over. So I'm talking about, a good chunk of the population of Miami-Dade County, Kendall too. All those areas in southwestern Miami-Dade County, I know you're seeing this, but this is not as bad as this. And what's coming your way is only this. So this is the hope that things are starting to get better in southern Dade, but at the same time, we're dealing with this one last feeder band, which does extend into into Broward County rather, and will continue to impact Broward County, probably for the next 2 hours. So when folks are timing, when is this going to be over? I'm telling you, in Broward, it's going to be 2 hours. And for Miami-Dade, the south is already better. The north needs another hour, probably, before it gets better. And after that, come 5, 6 o'clock this evening, we're going to start to breathe easier because we will no longer be in that infamous right front quadrant of the hurricane, which has caused so much havoc here in South Florida between the wind gusts to 100 miles an hour and the numerous tornadoes. I think this was the 15th tornado warning we've had so far from this system. One more look, perhaps, Steve, just to make sure that we localize and see if there's still any rotation there. You want to go to velocities real quick and just to keep people informed. The area of concern, again, from Key Biscayne into the possibility of downtown Miami. Let's see if we got something going on right there. It looks like it's really weak. I mean, the signal is weak. Hopefully this is weakening right now. This is something else that's not of concern. So as we look here, perhaps right in this area, sliding near downtown Miami. So very weak, probably not there anymore, but either way, take cover if you're listening to us near downtown Miami and points north, as we've got more weather heading your way, maybe another suspect area down here. Keep that in mind as that slides up towards Key Biscayne. Very busy afternoon. Some hope for improvement, Jackie and Jawan, over the next few hours, but still at least 2 hours to go in Broward of the worst of the weather, and maybe another hour for Miami-Dade of the worst of this weather.
Some light at the end of the tunnel.
That sounds good coming from the professor. So thank you, John. We appreciate that.
Nonetheless, some intense rain, some intense wind pounding South Florida still. But as John just mentioned, mentioned, we're close to seeing the worst of it. And he was talking about this tornado warning are in the Key Biscayne area and possibly even into the downtown Miami area.
And that's where we find NBC6 reporter Adam Cooperstein. Adam, I see those whipping winds still coming through there.
It's crazy here right now, guys. It just got really serious. I'm taking cover under our hotel awning right now. This is right across the street from the Epic, if you're familiar with it, in downtown Miami in the Bay. And Eddie, see what we can show them real quick here. Well, I'll just step into it so you can get a sense for a second of how bad the winds are right now. And you can probably tell from the camera right here, but I've got my back to it. I've got a railing so I can make sure I hold on. Right now, it's actually not as bad as it was before, but a little bit earlier, we were tracking about 90-mile-per-hour winds. John talked about the tornado warning. I saw in the distance over there by the bay, as the wind and the rain kick up a little bit, definitely some spinning. I have no idea. I can't diagnose a tornado from ground like this, but this is the strongest of the bands that we've seen in downtown Miami so far. And luckily, nobody's out here on the streets besides the corners roaming around. You can see I'm using the railing to hold myself up. That's how bad it is right now. And the streets are flooded behind me. You've seen that through downtown Miami. But I mean, this is insane. This is what
be careful. We got flying debris around there, and I'm seeing some signs of some whirlwinds around you. I'm not sure if that tornado might be going right by you, man.
I know, John. That's what I thought. I thought that because all these trees are knocked down, and it's not what I've seen. You know, I've reported on hurricanes. I haven't seen this. Right. I haven't seen the winds like this whipping up in this fashion before.
Exactly. I mean, you know, and we can't confirm it, Coop, because, you know, you're in a position right now where it's difficult to confirm whether there was a spin there or not. There's also funneling going on between the buildings. And, you know, you're up in New York now. You know, when it's a windy day up there and you get between those buildings, it does tend to speed up the wind speed. But at the same time, just as you were on the air, I was watching you and I saw what looked like almost a bit of a vortex coming through. So it's very possible that it came right through you as we were warning here on NBC6.
Yeah, I've got a pretty good spot here. I'm going to take you back, and I'll make sure I'm blocked by this wall here, so we can at least show you a little bit more of the wind, okay? And do it safely, of course, which is a priority. I'm not trying to be an idiot here on live TV. But if you can see behind me over there, cameraman's safe. He's behind this wall right here. As soon as you step out into here, the camera's, of course, going to get covered with rain, and it's spitting. And I'll go to the other side for a second. Maybe you can see me on this also protected area.
Yeah, and while you do that, while you're walking, Coop, I'll just mention and help folks realize where you're at. You're right at the
this hotel. This is like Epic Hotel, JW Marriott Marquis, sturdy buildings, and this is pretty interesting too, guys. We were inside our room about an hour ago, and you could actually feel the building swaying a little bit, moving a little bit. I don't have any engineering experience, but I'm assuming structural design, when this sort of thing happens, or you know, to make sure that there's some sort of springs or whatever to make sure it's safe. But the building actually was moving during those strongest wind gusts.
Yeah,
you got a rescue patrol car here on the roof. Looks like that is City of Miami Fire Rescue.
Hey, Coop,
City of Fire Miami Rescue. City of Miami Fire Rescue out there on the streets right now, driving around in this too.
Hey, I'm just wondering, Coop, if you've got a view, if there's still a storm surge problem over there by that turn on the road towards the end there, by that Gabbiano restaurant over there in the corner. Does this still look like there's a surge over there, or is it going away?
Yeah. Well, it's better than it was, John. Yeah, I'm going to go. Yeah, I think I'm okay for a second. I'm going to hold on to this railing so I'm fine. So, I don't want to. Well, maybe not a great idea. Yeah, look at this. It's pushing me. The wind is pushing me. I can use the railing just to talk to it right now.
Yeah, just
but
stay safe.
when I looked out there a few minutes ago, it was getting better. I know high tide has passed, but when we first came out here, that storm surge. Look at the wind now. My goodness. When we first came out here, that storm surge was really bad, totally impassable at that corner right on the bay. And also, you know, that beautiful area outside the Epic that people know. I actually got married right out there. Beautiful green Zuma restaurant. People sit out there, they tie their boats up. That boardwalk, of course, completely engulfed. It's going to be underwater.
Okay, Adam, try to stay under shelter there because it looks like some intense wind coming your way. Thanks so much for that live report. And as you can see, this is downtown Miami, and look at those palm trees, how they're blowing in the wind, and that light post as well. But one thing that I do notice is there's still light, so there's still power on that light post.
Just amazing there. And yes, Adam, be careful out there, man. Definitely. I mean, it looks like a tornado is whipping through there, and I know John is trying to check that out. I mean, look at those winds going through that area in downtown Miami.
One
Amazing.
thing that we should mention is that Miami-Dade County Mayor did finally issue a curfew from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. He hadn't done that yesterday, but today in the press conference when he was talking about the assessment that's going to be made about the damage here in Miami-Dade County, and because of so many down power lines and such, he has implemented a curfew for Miami-Dade County.
And Jackie, right now we're taking a look at one of the two cranes apparently that collapsed. On the phone with us, we have Major Richard Rand with North Miami Beach Police Department. Major, how are you doing first off?
I'm doing well. I'm riding the storm out.
And where are you riding the storm out at? And what can you tell us about what you're seeing?
Sure. I'm at the North Miami Beach EOC PIO office monitoring what's going on in our city. And I can just bring you up to date on a story that we had. We had reports of a trailer in our Highland Village neighborhood, which is 137th Street and Biscayne Boulevard, where the trailer supposedly had collapsed and we had two people trapped in it. We immediately deployed our MRAP, which is our military vehicle that's used in cases like this, with a medic and our SWAT team. And we've learned that the house is actually has not collapsed, and that there appears to be no injuries and nobody trapped inside. And while our officers were on scene, a large tree fell on another trailer in front of the officers. They immediately turned their attention there and responded over there. I can tell you that with these winds and this rain, generally our police officers are not out on the roads, but because we're equipped with the proper equipment and we had the foresight to see something like this happening, we are getting out there and trying to save lives.
I know that many of the communities are under mandatory evacuations. If something were to happen in one of these areas and you get a distress call, your officers are ready to go and help in that situation?
I can tell you that it depends on the distress call. If it's a 911 call, you know, depending on the call, of course, if we have people trapped in a home and it's life or death, you know, again, North Miami Beach Police Department is very well equipped, and we have an MRAP vehicle that we can immediately deploy. And it's really up to the EOC commander, the incident commander, whether or not we're going to send a team out there. In this particular case, we did.
Does it depend on the wind or the severity of the situation at the time?
Yeah, so once it's sustained 40-mile-an-hour winds, we pull all of our marked units off of the road. I have to also tell you that we have another area called Eastern Shores, which is east of Biscayne Boulevard on the Intercoastal, and we're experiencing some major flooding out there. I'm being told that there's 5 to 7 feet of water out there where the canals have actually overflowed. The Intercoastal has actually overflowed into the area.
Yeah, that's because of that storm surge that many places have been getting. And also, Major, I just want to ask you about any reports of any looting or anything going on. We do know that there's some of that has been reported upwards, well, north, a little bit north of you. Any reports of any looting or anything like that, burglaries going on, especially because people evacuated some of those areas?
I can tell you yesterday we had some reports of burglaries in progress. Today I haven't heard of any reports of burglaries in progress. You know, it's a very eerie feeling outside because I'm standing here looking outside, and you know, I can't imagine somebody going outside in this weather. But does it happen? Yes, I've heard reports that there is some looting in Broward County. I can tell you that the North Miami Beach Police Department is very, very, very proactive, and if we even get reports of something like that, we you know, if we get a chance, we will respond. We're going above and beyond for our residents in this city, and we're doing everything we can possibly in our powers to keep the people of Miami-Dade County safe.
And we appreciate what you and your officers are doing. I know that North Miami Beach, of course, part of Miami-Dade County, there's a curfew now in place. So if you're patrolling out there and you see anybody out there, what is the protocol?
I can tell you this. I can tell you that we're very serious about the curfew. We're very serious about people looting. We're very serious about people coming up to North Miami Beach to commit a crime. And I can tell you that I have given my officers, my chief has given me orders to give them a first-class ticket to jail. We won't ask any questions. You will go to jail if you're out and about, because there's no reason to be out in these conditions.
Amen. Major, thank you so much for joining us. Please be safe. And I know you're in a safe place right now, but please be safe.
Yes, and thank you.
Thank your officers as well. We appreciate your service.
Yes, thank you.
All right, we're going to check in now with Willard Shepard. He is live in 125th Street, Causeway in North Miami. And Willard, last time we checked in with you, man, some incredible pictures coming in. How's it looking out there now?
Okay, Juwan, we're just a couple miles south of where our good friend Major Rand, who you were just talking to, saw on the 79th Street Causeway. We can't venture really any further east than we are right now. The water here several feet deep. Deeper as you get closer to the bay along in here, and businesses and those houses, townhouses on the north side of the street in jeopardy of being flooded out here at this particular point. And also want to point out to John Morales and back there at the station, that we've also seen a shift in the wind. I'm facing due east right now, and throughout the course of this storm and up until the last 10 minutes or so, we had seen the wind coming off the bay, pushing this water going westbound. And now, as you just saw there, I've got a wind coming from the south and from the southeast, and that's the first we've really seen those kinds of gusts. Generally, it had been going from the west to the east, pushing that water out of the bay westbound out here in this direction. And Bruno, if we can pan back off here again, they see that's that change in that wind coming now from the south, not from due east as we had seen it through all of last night and much of the day until this point. Obviously, these families on the north side of these streets concerned about this water as it continues to rise, getting into their homes, into their property. Obviously, these businesses are out here all closed on the south side of the street, and we can't go further down that way to see if the water's actually getting into, Joanna, Jackie, into some of the lower lying properties that are here. But this is the second place that we've seen between Biscayne Bay and Biscayne Boulevard, the first on 79th Street and now on 125. With this kind of water, this kind of flooding, we're going to continue to move northbound. Major Rand was talking about some trouble in his area.
Yeah.
We're going to see exactly what we find as we go further north.
Hey, Willard, I'm just curious because we just talked to Steve Litz down in Kendall, and many of the street lights were still working. As you look around, and so much power is out of the county, have you seen the lights working in that area?
No, now where we are, and we've been transiting up and down Biscayne Boulevard. Bruno, if you can take a step or two this way and pan on the traffic light there, that's the traffic light east of Biscayne on 125. It's out. I haven't seen a traffic light work anywhere, Jackie, in North Miami, Miami Shores, North Bay Village, any of those areas. So anywhere north of downtown where we've been, from about 10 minutes north of downtown, up to about 15 minutes going up and down Biscayne Boulevard. I haven't seen a traffic light work since probably 11 p.m. or so last night.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Again, pretty incredible images here right behind you, Willard. We're going to stay with you a bit because if you take a look here right behind you, you can see all the debris and everything else. What is some of the damage that you're seeing out there in relation to these strong wind gusts that we're getting?
Yeah, well, Juwan, as you mentioned, and we're focused on that to you, and that's just people are familiar with the Home Depot on 123rd and Biscayne along in there, which of course has been a very popular spot during the course of this week. Those trees are pretty much on the back of the Home Depot parking lot there, and that's the kind of thing that we've seen. And you know, we just talked about the curfew being in effect. Major Rand was saying in his jurisdiction, anyone that's out there that they see, they have a first-class ticket to jail. This is the kind of thing that we've run across throughout our travels in this section of Miami-Dade County. Lots of trees down, roads, obviously, some of them impassable, some due to water, some due to trees and these kinds of things. And also, Bruno, pan off on the right, you see some of these power lines that are hanging down here between those two trees, and the wind gusting on them right now. That's the kind of thing that we've seen across the board throughout our journey here during the course of the day. And obviously, I've even seen some of these power lines hanging down low into the street in some locations where if a person was out here and try to drive by, that it's possible that they would not see that and actually, you know, run into a power line. And that's even another reason we're hearing, you know, John is telling us that this right front quadrant will be over here for much of us in Miami-Dade County. I'm towards the northern end of the county, so we still got a ways to go here. But eventually, when this all passes out, we don't want, obviously, people going out. People need to stay inside their homes. I've seen a lot of people waving at us, you know, from inside their properties. Even last night, shining flashlights, those places that did not have any kind of power on. And I know there's a real temptation to go outside, but please do not go outside. You know, so many more people are hurt, injured after the storm passes by because, and that's one of the reasons I'm not walking out any further. I can see the sidewalk right here, Jawan and Jackie. But beyond that, I can't really see further as to what is out into the water here. And therefore, safety first for all of us, but we try to set a good example for people at home not to be out walking in these areas or anything like this. And even just these trees that are all down along the sidewalk, this would be a perilous time for our community. And obviously all of our first responders, paramedics, firefighters, people that would have to respond to these kinds of things are at the ready. But let's do our best to minimize the actual work that they need to do over the next couple of hours when this clears up, and next couple of days. Got to continue to be smart about this.
They definitely do. And Willard, I just want to ask you, because across from you there are those homes, many of them are boarded up, and then on the other side, and as you head further west as well, there are some businesses. From your vantage point and what you've been able to see in your time there in North Miami, a lot of those small businesses, do you think that they're okay to open up again in the next couple of days, or do you see some damage that may take more than weeks?
Okay, Jackie, good news and bad news. The bad news is I can't tell further down eastbound on 125 and any of these other streets because of the water, how much of that water may have gotten in those businesses. The good thing is I see a lot of businesses like this one right here behind us that has completely been boarded up. The next two businesses made some attempt, not as well as the security on this first building. Throughout this area, we saw businesses respond to what the mayor here said, what all the county officials here said, to go out. And Jackie, this is the kind of thing we don't want to happen. You see the man in the orange, the yellow, the rain gear out walking, wandering. Looks like he's actually taking some video, taking some pictures. You know, Alina Machado told us what we all need to do, and hopefully we all did. Go out, document in advance where you have your vehicle, your home, take care of all your paperwork. And this is not time. This is exactly what not to do. We showed you a couple days before people dumping big debris in front of houses and homes, and not to do that. What you're seeing right now is a perfect example of what not to do in this kind of situation. And yeah, he's out there. I see the light on the front of his cell phone or small camera that he has out taking pictures, and he's obviously not documenting anything other than what Irma is bringing to his street at this particular point, and that's exactly what we should not be doing at this particular point here on this Sunday afternoon. And hopefully he comes to his senses and gets back inside there. We'd actually speak to him, but he's a pretty good distance away from us to get back inside. That's exactly what we do not want over the rest of tonight, and especially even in tomorrow. You just have to be very, 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 very careful about this, because so many orthopedic injuries occur after the storm goes by, and a lot of other things that can happen out here. You just don't know about the down power lines, the debris, items that you cannot see. I know we'll all be anxious to get out, but we just have to be patient about that.
Amen.
Willard, stay safe out there, and I know that you're moving around North Miami and other areas. Just stay safe, and as you mentioned, don't go out there where there's too much flooding, because you don't know what kind of debris or if there's a down power line. So stay safe. Thanks again, Willard.
Thanks, Willard.
We'll do that. We'll check in again with you soon.
Got it.
All right, you got that right. Okay, a lot of you out there, you have been asking, and we know that many of you want to enjoy football tonight with the New York Giants playing the Cowboys on NBC Sunday Night Football. All right. No need to worry. That's why we are providing you a couple of ways to watch the game while continuing our coverage of Hurricane Irma here on NBC6. Game coverage will begin tonight at 7 o'clock p.m. and kickoff is set for 8:15 p.m. on Cozy TV. Now, you can watch Cozy over the air on channel 6.2 on Xfinity and channel 216 Atlantic Broadband, channel 650, Advanced Cable channel 133, and AT&T UVerse channel 578. Also, you can watch tonight's game online by going to NBC6.com/live. That's after 7 o'clock p.m. on your desktop or laptop computer. Now, in normal circumstances, you'd have to log in with your cable provider info to access this feed. But guess what, folks? You don't have to do that. We've removed that, so you don't have to even worry about that for tonight's big game, because a lot of you are asking about it, so you can watch it on your tablet device.
You're not going to miss it.
And you're not going to miss a thing here. So some good news there. You will still be able to watch that game show. Now, I know a lot of you are asking about the game, so some good news.
Okay, we're going to check in now with Adam Berg. And Adam, the last time John came out with another tornado warning in the area of Key Biscayne and possibly into downtown Miami, is that over and done with?
That particular band is just beginning to shift east now. It's these bands that have the strongest winds and the best chances for tornadoes in them. And there's another one behind it, but you can just tell by looking at the colors here that we're not talking about the same reflectivity, not the same sort of intensity. So this band just beginning to scrape east of where Adam is, but it's got a much longer time to go before it gets all the way out of Broward. But things, like I mentioned before, will be improving south to north quickly. And as far as storm surge goes, we were already getting on the other side of the hurdle there once we hit midday. You know, that was high tide, and then once we worked through high tide, things were already improving as we inch closer to low tide. And we're going to get you here to Marco Island before too long. This is where the system looks like making landfall right now. So let's zoom into that one of those bands we were just talking about. So here's Key Biscayne, already improving here, no doubt about it. A little bit farther off to the north, still talking about some issues on Miami Beach. And then once we work northbound along the coastline of Miami-Dade, still some issues for, you know, it's really tough to tell. Once we get that band out of here, so maybe another hour or so in Miami-Dade until that clears Miami-Dade, it's going to take longer for Broward County to get that band out of here. This, again, nothing like the band we're dealing with right now. That's what had all those strong winds and that tornado warning. Here we go, farther to the north. Here's Coral Springs. We still have to get this band to rotate through you. Not so bad right now north of Fort Lauderdale. You see this little break in the action, but of course one of those other bands still set to head north too. And hopefully this will be the last one, but that could be a couple hours. We may just now be losing some radar data. I think we are. Our radar's been going in and out. But what you can tell from this picture, though, landfall happening right now. There's basically the center of circulation. Flash flood warning out here across Marco Island with extreme rain rates as that eye wall is scraping along the coast. And as it did so, we got some pretty impressive rainfall amounts. It was about 14 miles out. That now it looks like that eye wall has spread north. What's going on, John?
No, just to let you know, we're dumping out of
okay.
the show because the issue with the radar.
Okay, yeah, the radar definitely having some problems there. We'll get that back as soon as we can. Peak wind gusts, though. Look at what just happened here on the west coast of Florida And this is where Erica sits here. She's in Naples, 104-mile-per-hour wind gust. Marco Island, as that system was making landfall, as that eye wall was scraping across, possible wind gust to 130. Erica sits in Naples, 104. Erica, let's throw it over to you. It's a pretty wild wind gust. Are you seeing ground truth to some of that right now? And we may be having some trouble there with Erica, so maybe we'll go back to the anchors for now. We're going to get to Erica as soon as we can. Sitting in Naples, where the winds are only going to be moving up from here on out. Guys?
Yeah, I was about to say, don't go anywhere, Adam, because I'm looking at some of the images coming out of Naples right now. I mean, with that eye approaching there, and I mean, pretty incredible images, just showing those wind gusts and everything else. It looks like they may get hit even harder than what we've been seeing.
Absolutely. I mean, they're going to get that center of circulation working through, and I believe we got Erica Glover back. Marco Island just now seeing that eye wall scrape across. That's the core of fastest winds. That 130 very well may be accurate. And then, of course, in Naples, which sits just to the north, those wind speeds coming up. Erica, let's go over to you. What are the winds like where you are right now?
Well, that 130 definitely feels accurate because I was just standing right here on this porch and I had to just brace this just so that I can stand up. The winds are just pushing and pushing and pushing, and we're just really trying to stay safe right now because these limbs are just falling one by one, and you can't even look down this road. I went out there to try to see if we could stand out there to go live. We can't. I believe that a car is actually stuck down there. A lot of debris right now on this road. I mean, you can feel this gust. I mean, if I step down there, I'm even afraid to because the wind just keeps pushing us. You can definitely feel just a strong wind, that surge of wind coming down. We're going to wipe the limbs off just a little bit. And even down on the garage area, just limbs keep falling down to the ground. So that area, you can't even get access to it. The water over there, if you pan over, the pier where we were at this morning, Naples Pier, you cannot even see that pier anymore. Look at this wind, this rain. The trees are just going back and forth. And a lot of them, they look like they're going to topple over, like they're not going to make it. I was looking online, Emergency Operations Center. Right now they have more than 700,000 power outages. Where we're at right now, we don't have any power. So we're just trying to make do. But again, just look at the way those trees are just toppling over. My photog is trying to brace right now. And you just see all the debris just falling right in front of us. And we're trying to also watch out for coconuts because about 10 minutes ago, coconuts were just flying from the tree and hitting the road really close to us. So right now, I think we're going to get back inside and send it back over to you guys.
All right, now stay with us for a minute, Erica. Of course, I want to make sure that you're safe. Erica, I got to ask you, is this your first hurricane or the first hurricane where you've actually been in the eye or near the eye of the storm?
Well, Juwan, I'm from South Carolina. I have not been through any hurricane. This is my very first hurricane. I'm pretty sure my mom is having a heart attack. She's watching nonstop, trying to make sure I'm okay, so this video probably isn't helping her any, so I'm sorry, Mom. But, I mean, you know, we're trying to stay safe.
You were here in South Florida and you saw the preparations that went underway here. How do you compare those with the preparations there in Naples? Are people boarded up?
Well, yesterday we were at the shelters. What I found is that a lot of people didn't expect to get this here in Naples. One man that I spoke with, he was telling me about the hurricanes that have impacted Naples before. I think two different hurricanes, Charlie, and I forgot the other one. One in 2004 and one in 1960, and both of them he wrote them out of his house. But for this particular storm, Hurricane Irma, he decided to get over to that shelter. So a lot of people took this one seriously. I mean, these homes are empty. People are not playing around. The beach empty. Nobody is out here, and that's good.
Oh, no, that is definitely good, Erica. We want you to be safe out there. I know how it is when you come from another city and you cover your first hurricane. You know, it's definitely quite a sight for sure. But we
60, by the way, Donna. And we want to update you now on some of those power outages because of the storm. We've been talking about this, unprecedented numbers FPL has been reporting. Well, right now, more than 800,000 customers are without power in Miami-Dade. That number keeps increasing as Irma closes in on South Florida, even though she's still 90 miles away and she's moving towards the north. But some of those effects of the storm continue to affect us here. Over 600,000 are in the dark in Broward County and in Palm Beach as Irma continues to move north. 324,000 customers are without power. FPL says that as soon as it's safe, they're going to come out and they're going to start restoring power to those customers. We're also working to figure out exactly how many people are in the dark in Monroe County. As you can imagine, that was a direct hit to Cudjoe Key. Most of the Keys from Key Largo all the way down to Key West was affected in some fashion by hurricane force winds. And you can imagine, I'm sure probably the majority of the Keys are going to be without power. If we're feeling those effects here in Miami-Dade and Broward counties, it's very difficult to calculate there. But we're working on those numbers. And, you know, the conditions there are dangerous, so I'm sure that the restoration of the power in the Keys is going to take a little longer, obviously. The further south you go, the worse it's going to be.
And we know that Punta Gorda got hit, I believe it was with Charlie, pretty bad a while back. So how are they faring with Hurricane Irma? Let's check in out with meteorologist Chris Callinger, who's in Punta Gorda.
Winds now gusting to 60 miles per hour in Punta Gorda, and you can see that's enough to topple the trees here. Winds will likely ramp up as the northern part of that eye wall continues to move up the western part of Florida. We're seeing large areas of debris from pieces of palm tree to other flying debris, and that will be a big concern, especially when those winds gust over 100 miles per hour. We'll be watching the situation closely as we go through the evening. Reporting in Punta Gorda, meteorologist Chris Callinger. Now back to you.
I think that's what we're going to see, a lot of those downed trees. And look at these live pictures right now of the wind blowing. It's still, as John Morales said, and we're still in it. These pictures, I'm not sure where are these live pictures from.
Are these pictures from Naples?
They're Naples. Okay. Oh, they're from here.
From South Florida. Okay, Naples, I'm sorry. Okay, we're going to go to John real fast.
Right. So I've got a new tornado warning just now issued for Broward County. You're going to see it here on screen momentarily as soon as they frame the camera. And there you go. Another one, yet another one, as we continue to see the rotating thunderstorms around the spiral bands. We're talking here from Fort Lauderdale proper, up the coast all the way to the county line with Palm Beach. As you can see, this encompasses really all of these communities in northern Broward County. So as far west as Coral Springs and Parkland, as far east as Deerfield Beach, Pompano Beach, and Lighthouse Point. You're all included in this. Further to the south, Fort Lauderdale, and several of the other communities in between. Now, let's see what's out there as we look at just the still picture, of course, of the reflectivity. Here goes our live sweep. Boy, this is that band, right? This is the band that continues to cause problems, and with all the wind gusts to above 90 miles per hour. And maybe we go to velocity and see exactly what's going on out there right now. And we try to relate it to where the warning is. Oh, gosh, classic. A classic situation right here. There it is. So, again, I mean, understand what's going on here. We've got the air moving away from the radar, and what the radar is doing is using all the rain that's out there, and it's bouncing the signal off of the raindrops. And if the raindrops are moving away from us, we know. And if the raindrops are moving closer to us, we know through our First Alert Doppler 6000, and therefore we know that something is spinning right around here, right here actually, and headed more than likely towards either Deerfield Beach or perhaps across the county line into Boca Raton. Now again, our TV viewing area is up to this line right here. Some folks might be watching on a live stream up here in Boca Raton, but let's try to see one more time. Can you loop that for 15 minutes? And see if we get a sense of where it might might be headed, again, seems to be headed generally in a northwesterly direction. This seems to favor mostly Palm Beach County. Back to the warning polygon, we'll be able to tell if it's really mostly a one that tends to stretch into that area. Certainly does, but it does encompass a good chunk of northern Palm Beach County at this hour. All right, so 16th tornado warning so far. Steve, you know what I'd like to do? I want to switch to reflectivity. I want to go to the current image and zoom way out so that we can see what's going on down in Dade, because I've been monitoring the end, the hopeful, very hopeful end of the worst weather in Dade County. And so this band continues to give us trouble as we are seeing some cells from this band skirting along Miami Beach and reaching places like Aventura. So this one is still problematic, but this is sliding generally towards the north. This is all lifting northbound, and all of this stuff that you see here for the rest of Miami-Dade County right now, listen, it's gusty. Certainly winds are gusting out there. It's rainy. You're not to go outside because those conditions are not safe right now. But since everybody's been asking, when will the worst be over? I'm telling you that for Dade County, the worst, except for this corner, which includes Miami Beach up to Aventura, for the rest of the county, from Florida City and Homestead through Doral and into Hialeah, all the way up to Miami Gardens, including the area near Opelika, all those sections are just now, from this point forward, going to see gusty winds with on and off rain, which could produce some floods. Again, dangerous situation outside because you have down power lines that, in those floods, could have energized those puddles. So you don't want to be out and about walking in those conditions. Stay indoors. But, you know, again, you're tired of the dangerous, constant pummeling of the wind, and for Dade County, as well as, of course, as the Florida Keys, that is essentially over, except for this corner, as I said, from the beach to the northeastern corner of the county. For Broward County, folks, you still have a good couple of hours to go. I'm sad to tell you, but you know, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and this is still rotating through your area. So we have this band, which is part of the one that's clipping Miami Beach and Aventura right now. So this is still trouble near the coast, and that's why the warning was issued, a tornado warning for this section of Broward County, as that area is rotating through. And you've got a lot of other junk going on as well in the southern and southwestern section of Broward County. So you got to hang on a couple hours for you as this all slides to the north. But, you know, once you start getting into this, this is gusts, rain, but the gusts are not nearly as bad as what's going on here. So just give it another hour, a couple hours, and we're going to be better, not done with everything, but definitely better, and the worst would be over, because remember, we have been waiting for the moment in which this hurricane, which is already abeam Miami, lifts north of Miami. So again, one more time, we look to see, actually it's now abeam, North Miami Beach? It's certainly a little bit further towards the north. It's swallowing up Marco Island right now. I mean, look at the eye. Marco Island is right there. And the hurricane is, 98 miles, almost 100 miles. Well, this is from Miami Beach, right? Looks like you stretch it from Miami Beach down to the west. I think it's 90 miles west of Miami proper. Regardless, that's fine. Don't measure it again. But you can see that the eye of the hurricane is over Marco Island right now. It's headed towards Naples. So, you know, whoever is left right now in Marco Island that did not evacuate the area, they're living through the calm inside the eye of the hurricane after having to have gone through this. And now that's going to happen up in Naples. Naples is like right here. So this eye is going to be here just in the next several minutes. But Naples right now, they're seeing the worst. They're seeing the eye wall right now getting pounded by that, plus the storm surge, which is a big, big issue. Look at Dade. I mean, you know, you put this in context, you try to look at it from a little bit further away. So don't focus on necessarily on the individual spiral bands. Just look at the whole picture, and you can tell that the weather is improving from south to north and that things are getting better in Dade. Not safe enough to go outside, but definitely better, and they are soon to get better in Fort Lauderdale. So, again, a little bit of optimism here, even within the tornado warning that's going on right now, that soon, hopefully soon, we are going to see the improvements that everybody's hoping for here in South Florida. Guys?
Hey, John, have you ever seen a wind field this massive from a hurricane?
I tell you what, Jackie, I mean, Wilma's wind field was quite impressive as well. In all this madness of covering this hurricane, I have not had time to check and see just how wide the wind field in Wilma was. I recall Wilma having a wide wind field because the storm surge from the backside of Wilma came around and totally inundated the middle and lower Florida Keys. It was just from Key West to Marathon. They were swallowed up by a storm surge, which caused some serious damage, especially in Marathon. I mean, the airport was totally underwater in that area. So that wind field was big. So I'll have to check about Wilma, but I'm betting on Irma having a larger wind field than Wilma.
And I bet you're betting on Hurricane Irma, the name, to be retired as well.
That's a total slam dunk.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, so we have some interesting statistics about that. First of all, Harvey, we know, is going to be retired. And Irma, we know, is going to be retired. So 2 consecutive retired names within a single hurricane season, that hasn't happened in several years. I'm not saying 2 decades, but it's been several years since that has happened. So that's one interesting factoid about that situation. And the other one is having 2 Category 4 hurricanes strike the United States in a single year. And that one does go back several decades since the last time something like that happened. So, we're talking history here. And Steve's telling me that we have another. Okay, so they've modified. What's going on here is they have modified the polygon related to the tornado warning that we have been discussing to include much less of Broward County. Remember when we showed you the spin up and I was telling you kind of which portion it might head to, and it really looked like it was going to be a Palm Beach County problem more than it would be a Broward County problem, and definitely not a Coral Springs and Parkland problem. Well, they have been removed from the tornado warning. Can breathe a little bit easier right now in Coral Springs and Parkland and other places in the western reaches of the county. Just this corner now, Pompano Beach, Lighthouse Point, Deerfield Beach, where we have any concern right now as this is sliding through, maybe a couple of segments here, all sliding towards the north. Again, remember, like I've been telling you, Broward County, we still have a couple of hours of this weather to go as these continue to rotate through your area. But leaving Miami now, look, now down in South Beach, the weather much improved. The thunderstorm is offshore, and this one, I believe, if anything, is going to rotate just east of Mid-Beach and then possibly clip this area of Dade County. The rest of the county are looking a lot better despite the showers and thunderstorms that you see right there, just looking a lot better as the southern half of this hurricane is moving in. It is just not as active in the southern half as it's been in the right front quadrant in the north half, which has been plaguing us, as you know, since yesterday. We've been into this for well over 24 hours.
Okay, John, thanks. And as John mentioned, the worst is getting to be over. Not quite yet, but we're almost there. But it's still too dangerous to go outside because of some down power lines and down trees. So that's a very important message to get across to our viewers.
Can I say one more thing about because I said this on Twitter, and it's really a very tragic story. In 1999, in Hurricane Irene, the Hurricane Irene came up south to north, and it's mainly remembered, Irene, as a hurricane that dumped so much water that caused a lot of damage to vehicles all over South Florida. There were hundreds of cars that were totaled by being submerged in water from Hurricane Irene. But Irene's eye was coming up across the Everglades, and the corner of the eye clipped Weston. So Weston got into the eye of Hurricane Irene in 1999. And a couple of kids went out, teenagers, went out in Weston, I believe with a dog. I can't recall the story exactly, but they were walking around and there was a puddle, and the puddle was electrified by a downed power line. And I mean, this is just a horrible story, but I got to tell it because I think it can save lives in this event and other events in the future. 2 kids got immediately electrocuted. The mother was desperate, of course, frantic in the situation, and despite others trying to keep her from going into the puddle to save her children, she too was electrified because she just rushed into the water. There was a live power line in it. So, I mean, we're talking several deaths from just one puddle in the middle of the Western area back in 1999. And it's just a horrible, horrible situation, a horrible circumstance. And that is why you can't venture outside. You can't let your kids outside until we know that, you know, all the electric power has been checked by FP&L, and we're sure that there are no live electric power lines out there, because that is the type of story that I never want to hear about again. Back to you guys.
Yeah, none of us want to hear stories like that. Okay, John, thanks.
All right, we're going to check now with NBC6 reporter Daryl Forges. He is live in Fort Lauderdale. Daryl, what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, well, right now, Juwan, as John was talking about those heavy winds here in Fort Lauderdale, we've been driving around for the past, I would say, 45 minutes to an hour, and the wind speeds have really picked up here in Fort Lauderdale. We're right over here where the beach is supposed to be, this bridge going over to the beach. As you can see right here, they have some cones right here trying to block off the traffic, letting people know not to come over the bridge because of the fear of water and the possible flooding in this area. Now, we have seen some water come up here. Kind of show it down my feet, Adam, right here. You kind of see a little water in this part, but there's some deeper parts as you get further up, especially up to that bridge. But right now, this is really unsafe to go through. We did see one truck actually try to go through earlier. Told him that wasn't the smart thing to do, but he kept going anyway. So we're going that bridge and the beach. And we've just seen heavy winds in this area. We've seen several downed trees all throughout this area. We've seen a couple trees hit a couple of cars, as well as hit a few homes. Jackie and Juwan, there's a couple of moments when we could have took some shots of those, but we couldn't because we were in danger at that point because we were under a lot of trees. So we really didn't take a whole lot of shots because the trees were just going weaving back and forth, and some are completely leaned over to one side. You can see these palm trees up at the top. You can just see how heavy the wind is really kicking up to the left over there. So that's what we're seeing so far over here. As also, this is our first time driving since getting out here, because as you all know, we were in studio or outside of the station for a while. Since we've been here, we have seen some extremely heavy winds that actually pushed our car left and right. So it was very unsafe at one point, but luckily we are safe and we're good to go. But we also saw some branches and some twigs also hit the side of our car. So it is very unsafe at this point. We've seen a lot of water. Right now, this is small, because the reason why it's small here is because this is a safe part where we are. But if we went further up that way to where there's a little bit more flooding, a little more water, it would not be safe for us to go through those areas right now. So we've seen a lot of things going on. We've also saw a few stores in the Publix that's in Miramar that had a alarm go off. It was a fire alarm, but we didn't see a fire, but we did see the alarm go off in that area. Again, we've seen so many trees come down. Some big trees come down and hit some homes and block a lot of roadways. So again, you've heard John Morales talk about it, and I know you've all been saying it over and over again. It is important, and it is imperative that you understand that you should not be out here right now. You need to stay home. Jawal, you talked about it yesterday, and I'm more sure today about that cabin fever. You don't want to go out this way. You want to stay in, because this is just completely unsafe at this point. Guys, back to you.
Very good advice there, Daryl, and please be safe out there, and we'll check back in with you in just a bit.
Thanks, Daryl. Now we have the opportunity to speak with the mayor of the village of Isla Mirada, James Mooney, about 60 miles